not afraid.
They cannot silence us.
Fight for freedom.
Tehran. Present day. The streets are burning. Look closely at these faces. These are not soldiers. They are students. Young men and women born into a world where their government claims to speak for God. They are chanting for something that should be a birthright. But here, it is a crime. Freedom. But this fire in Iran is not new. It is an ancient flame, rekindled. To understand the tears of these mothers in Tehran, we must look away from the Middle East and look back 1,000 years to the heart of Europe. The architecture is different, the language is different, but the system is exactly the same. When the state holds the sword and the church or the mosque holds the gavel, the result is always the same. The innocent die. We call it theocracy. But the Bible predicts it with a more terrifying name. It calls it the Iron Trap.
History is not just a record of the past, but a key to understanding our present and shaping our future.
Welcome. I am a historian and a student of prophecy.
When we see the headlines from Iran, thousands killed by their own government in the name of God, we are horrified.
How can this happen in the modern world?
But to a historian, this isn't modern, it's medieval. And to a student of the Bible, it is something else entirely. It is a fulfillment of prophecy. Most people think the separation of church and state is a political idea invented by America's founding fathers. But it isn't. It is actually the central theme of the book of Daniel. Written 2,500 years ago, this book warned us about a power that would rise, an iron power. Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25, gives us the chilling details. It describes a religious political system that would persecute the saints of the Most High and try to change times and laws. It predicts a specific period of domination, a time, times, and half a time. That is not a poetic riddle. It is a mathematical timeline, 1,260 years of history where the line between the church and the state was erased. And when that line is erased, conscience dies. Today, we are going to walk through that timeline. We will do the math, we will uncover the history, and we will ask a hard question. Are we, in the free world, rebuilding the very trap we escaped? To understand where we are going, we must understand where we began. Babylon, 600 BC. King Nebuchadnezzar is troubled by a nightmare. He sees a colossal statue, a head of gold, chest of silver, thighs of bronze, and legs of iron. This wasn't just a dream, it was a timeline of human history. Babylon was the gold, wealthy, glorious, but short-lived. Medo-Persia was the silver, a dual kingdom, strong but inferior in splendor. Greece was the bronze. Under Alexander the Great, it conquered the world with speed. But then came the fourth kingdom, the Iron Kingdom. It crushed everything in its path. It was a machine of war. But notice something crucial in the prophecy. The iron doesn't just disappear, it continues down into the feet. But the feet are different. They are a mixture, iron mixed with potter's clay. In the Bible, clay represents people, or the church. Jeremiah 18:6 says, "As the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in mine hand, O house of Israel." So, the feet represent a time when the iron of Roman state power tries to mix with the clay of the church. The prophecy says, "They shall not cleave one to another." This is the first biblical mandate for the separation of church and state. God declared that religion and state power are incompatible, like oil and water, like iron and clay. When you try to force them together, the foundation becomes brittle. It cannot stand. But the prophecy gets more specific. In Daniel chapter 7, the same timeline is shown as 4 beasts: a lion, a bear, a leopard, and a terrible dragon. Out of this dragon, Rome, 10 horns arise. These are the 10 tribes of Europe. But then a little horn comes up among them. This little horn is different. It has eyes like a man and a mouth speaking great things. It is a political power, but it acts like a religious one. It is a church that has taken the seat of a king. And what does it do? Daniel 7:25 tells us, "It makes war with the saints." How long would this power rule? The Bible gives us a precise mathematical formula: a time, times, and half a time. Let's decode this using the ancient Hebrew calendar, where a time equals 1 year of 360 days. 1 time equals 360 days. 2 times equals 720 days. Half a time equals 180 days. Add them up, and you get 1,260 days. But in Bible prophecy, a day represents a year. Ezekiel 4:6 says, "I have appointed thee each day for a year." So we are looking for a period of exactly 1,260 literal years, where the church used the power of the state to crush dissent. The clock starts in the year 538 AD. The Roman Emperor Justinian had just defeated the Ostrogoths, the last Aryan tribe that opposed the Bishop of Rome. Justinian issued a decree. He legally constituted the Bishop of Rome as the head of all holy churches. The sword of the state was placed into the hand of the church. The iron and the clay were mixed. The 1,260-year countdown had begun. For the next 12 centuries, the lights went out in Europe. We call it the Dark Ages. But it wasn't dark because the sun stopped shining. It was dark because the Bible was locked away. If you disagreed with the church, you weren't just a heretic.
By the authority vested in us, you are hereby charged with high treason and heresy. May God have mercy on your soul.
You were a criminal against the state.
And so the great Count Amadeus rode through the valley, banishing the dragon that
Consider the
terrorized the
Waldenses.
villages.
These were simple mountain people who wanted nothing more than to read the Bible in their own language. For this crime, armies were sent to hunt them down. Men, women, and children were thrown off cliffs or burned alive in caves. Why? Because there was no separation. The priest spoke, and the soldiers struck. This is exactly what we see in Iran today. The names have changed, but the spirit is identical. But God's math is perfect. If you start in 538 AD and add 1,260 years, you arrive at the year 1798. What happened in 1798? The French Revolution was raging. The French General Berthier, under orders from Napoleon, marched his army into the Vatican.
Disarm the guards and seize the Pope! This is an outrage against the Almighty. By the authority of the French Republic, you are placed under arrest. Take him!
On February 10th, 1798, General Berthier arrested Pope Pius VI. He proclaimed that the political power of the papacy was at an end. The Pope was dragged into exile, where he later died. The deadly wound had been inflicted. The 1,260-year reign of the Little Horn was broken exactly on time. The separation of church and state was forcibly restored. Just as the old world was collapsing, a new power was rising in the West: the United States of America. Revelation 13 describes a beast with 2 horns like a lamb. These two horns represent the two principles that made America great. Republicanism, a state without a king, and Protestantism, a church without a pope. For the first time in history, a nation was built on the wall of separation. But today, that wall is under attack, and the attack is coming from within the church. Many sincere Christians, evangelicals in America, are frustrated by the moral decline of society. They feel like they are losing, and in their fear, they are falling into a trap. It is the same trap the disciples fell into. They walked with Jesus, yet they constantly asked him, "Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel?" They wanted an iron Messiah. They wanted Jesus to take the throne of David and crush the Romans with military force. But Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world." He refused the sword. He refused the crown. Today, we hear voices in America saying that Christians must take back the government, that we need to legislate our faith, that the state should enforce God's law. This sounds righteous, but it is a fatal error. If the church picks up the sword of the state to enforce its values, it does not become the kingdom of heaven. It becomes the beast, which has two horns like a lamb but speaks like a dragon. We are looking at the events in Iran and saying, "How terrible." But are we preparing to do the same thing here? The prophecy of Daniel 2 ends with a stone cut out without hands. This stone strikes the statue at its feet, the mixture of iron and clay, and shatters it to dust. This represents the second coming of Christ. He does not come to take over the governments of this world. He comes to the end of them. He does not need a president or a prime minister to usher in his kingdom. He needs only the hearts of his people. We are living in the very toes of the statue. The 1,260 years are history. The warning of the Dark Ages is clear, and the mirror of Iran is right before our eyes. The lesson of history is this: faith requires freedom. Love cannot be forced by law. As we look to the future, do not put your trust in the iron of the state. Do not try to mix it with the clay of your faith. Stand for the separation. Stand for liberty of conscience. And prepare for the only kingdom that will never fade. The kingdom that is not of this world.